The letter Q, 5 games, 2 systems, and one of them is about to get absolutely destroyed. Welcome back to the C64 versus the Atari 800XL alphabet battle. We made it to the letter Q, and I'll be honest with you, when I started pulling Q games, I thought this was going to be a short episode. Q is not exactly the most crowded letter in the arcade catalog, but what we found surprised me. We've got a Taito arcade classic scored by one of the most respected SID composers of the 8-bit era. We've got a Hunchback with a surprisingly compelling revenge story. And we've got a Marvel Comics text adventure where one system shows you pictures and the other just didn't. And we've got a 1984 game that hid actual buried treasure coordinates inside the gameplay. 5 Q games. 2 systems, real hardware, no emulation. I'm Tom from Texas, and this is Floppy Deep Dive. Let's see who takes letter Q. Boom. Before we get into the Q games, let me take you back to 1981. You walk into an arcade and there's this cabinet in the corner that doesn't look like anything else on the floor. No characters, no enemies you can name, just a spinning thing. They call it kicks, and your job was to draw lines around it without getting touched. One writer called it electronic real estate. I called it the most nerve-wracking geometry class I ever took. This is Kicks, Taito, 1981. Both the C64 and the Atari got official ports. Here they are, side by side. Right away, look at those 2 title screens. The C64 on the left, the 1989 official Taito release, has a full illustrated street screen, characters running, the Kicks creature rendered in full color. Somebody spent real time on that. The Atari on the right boots straight to business. No argument about which one makes a better first impression. Now we're in the gameplay. Both cursors are diamond-shaped, faithful to the arcade. But look at the size difference. The C64 cursor on the left is small. Then, when that spark starts bouncing along your lines and the pressure's on, you're hunting for that little marker. The Atari cursor on the right reads more solid on the screen, almost honeycomb style. Easier to track when everything else gets chaotic. Atari gets that point. The claimed territory feels differently on each side. The C64 lays down a teal and brown crosshatch pattern. Textured, retro, looks great on the CRT. The Atari fills with its own clean color scheme, but both versions keep the arcade tensions intact. Fast draw claims territory quicker, slow draw earns double points. This is as fair of a fight as the series gets. Here's something the Lemon 64 community actually debates: whether the 1983 Styx clone that circulated for years plays smoother than the official 1989 Taito release. And honestly, they might have a point on responsiveness, but what the 1989 version has that the clone never had is Tim Follin, one of the most respected SID composers of the 8-bit era. And he didn't just write one level complete jingle, he wrote 10, a different piece of music for every single level. On a Questprobe in 1989, the SID chip is working overtime on that left side of your screen, and the Atari on the right sounds fine, functional. It's the rental car of the Kicks audio. Get you there, you just won't remember the ride. Here's the honest truth about Kicks on both systems. It was never a game that grabbed you by the collar. Even in the arcade, it was minimalist. This is the Snake on your first cell phone. You didn't plan to play it. You just looked up and 20 minutes later were gone. But looking at both screens right now, C64 wins. Better title screen, better audio. Tim Follin writing 10 different level complete tracks for a game most people had already forgotten. The Atari holds its own on cursor visibility, but the left side of your screen wins this one going away. Atari owners, you had the cartridge. Did the sound ever bother you? Or did you just not know what you were missing? q-bert, 1982. Gottlieb. If you ever walked past an arcade in the early 80s, you didn't see this game first. You heard it. That sound, that little orange guy bouncing around a pyramid, falling off, and swearing at you in language nobody could explain. If you don't know how to say that, neither did Gottlieb. That was the whole point. One of the best fixes in gaming history. Warren Davis and Jeff Lee designed this at Gottlieb. The idea is simple on paper. Hop on every cube to change its color and avoid the enemies. Advance. Simple enough to turn into a Saturday morning cartoon, a McDonald's Happy Meal toy, and ports to what felt like every piece of hardware in 1983. And the name almost didn't happen. Early on, this game was called Snots and Boogers. Then they tried as the actual title. And then q-bert. The fact that we're saying q-bert today, that's one of the best naming saves in gaming history. Holy Moses. This is what both systems are trying to match. Warren Davis, the guy who made q-bert, said the Coleco version was actually the most accurate port. We don't have a ColecoVision today, so let's find out which one of these two comes closest. Let's start with the Atari, and I need you to look at this. q-bert has no eyes. Not him, not Coily. Nobody on the screen has a face. They're completely hollow, empty. This is q-bert, the vacancy. Look at the pyramid too. Flat cubes, gray and yellow. The whole thing looks like someone described q-bert over the phone, and the programmer never actually saw the game. Now here's something interesting. Back in 1983, one magazine called the Atari version one of the finest arcade translations ever made. Another said it had no sense of style. 40 years later, on real hardware, I know which one was right. Gameplay, I'll give Atari some credit. It's actually easier to get further. The difficulty curve's more forgiving, so if surviving is your goal, you'll probably get further here. But there are no level transition scenes. On the C64, you finish a level and get a moment, a breather, a little celebration. On the Atari, you just keep going. The game barely noticed what you did. And the music, there is music on the Atari version. I'll leave it at that. Now, the C64, there he is. Eyes, legs, a face, an actual character who looks like he has somewhere to be and someone to avoid. Look at the pyramid. You get to the top, the sides, real shading. You actually get depth here. You could read it instantly. The yellow and blue just pop on a real CRT in a way the Atari version never does. Coily has facial expressions. The red ball has detail. Everyone on the C64 pyramid shows up for work. The Lemon 64 community put it well. They call it one of the best cartridge releases the C64 ever saw. Playing it today, they weren't wrong. The level transitions are there, just like the arcade. You actually get a moment between rounds, and the SID chip just sounds right here. The bounce, the enemy movement, that moment when you get crushed, it all hits the way it's supposed to. Controls, same on both, same joystick, same diagonal movement. That's a fair fight. Neither system wins there. But if you're picking the version closest to the arcade, for me, it's not even close. C64 wins q-bert. Better graphics, better sound, proper level transitions, and the full cast of characters who actually have faces. The Atari version is easier, I'll give it that, but easier gameplay on an eyeless pyramid is not a win. Atari owners, I gotta know, did you grow up playing this and just think that's what q-bert looked like? Because I'm willing to bet a lot of people never realized he was supposed to have a face. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. And if q-bert already looks different between the two systems, just wait till you see what's coming next. 1984, Synapse Software, one of Atari's favorite developers, decides to take on the legend of Hunchback of Notre Dame. Stolen jewels, a medieval castle, teleportation, historically accurate stuff. Both systems got this one. Here they are side by side. Now, before we even talk gameplay, look at the Atari on the right, that title screen. That is the gameplay screen. Synapse built it so you play right back into the title card. Quasi swoops through his own logo. Holy Moses, I actually love that. That's clever design that took real thought, and the C64 on the left doesn't do it. They kept the title separate. Atari gets full credit for that right out of the gate. Here's the thing worth knowing. Synapse was primarily an Atari house. The Atari 8-bit was their own home turf, so when this game came to the C64, the Commodore version was the port. Keep that in mind as we play. The home team is on the right side of your screen. Your mission? 3 jewels stolen by dark forces. Quasi says it's time for revenge. You step into a teleport. Look, it's 1984. Just go with it. And the ladders start coming up the castle wall. Throw rocks down on the soldiers climbing up. Clear the screen. It scrolls up. You grab the jewel. Teleport back right into that title screen. Drop the jewel in its box and do it all over again. Next wave, arrows come in angles. Then you're swinging across bells while dodging bats. I never made it past the 3rd bell on either system. Every time I went for the 4th one, gone. The Lemon 64 community agrees. One reviewer called the rope swinging section too finicky. And honestly, that's being generous. If any of you have actually finished this thing, drop it in the comments because I need answers. Now look at Quasimodo himself on both sides. On the right, Synapse's home platform. He's small, little guy, baby head on tiny body. He's supposed to be the Hunchback, and you'd miss it if you blinked. On the left, the C64 port, he's bigger, properly hunched over, more detailed, and the rocks he's throwing actually look like rocks. That is a Hunchback. The C64 is also harder. A lot more ladders come up at you at once. More pressure, faster decisions. If the Atari version is the warm-up, the C64 version is the final exam. Sound on both? Effects only, no music. The bells ring differently on each system, which is a nice little detail. Overall, sound is a push. Neither system's doing anything that the other should be jealous of. The C64 wins. Better character detail, bigger sprites, harder challenge, and here's what makes that interesting. Synapse built this game on Atari hardware first. That was their house, their comfort zone, and the C64 port still came out looking better. On their own rival's turf, the Commodore won. That's saying something. Atari gets its point for its clever title screen, but when Quasi steps on the screen on the left, he actually looks ready to defend Notre Dame. On the right, he looks like he's late for recess. Who else could never get past those bells? Which version did you play? Drop it below. 3 games down, C64 is leading, but we still got a Marvel Comics, a man tied to the chair, and buried treasure in Mexico. If you want to support the series, membership link is right below. 99 cents gets you in the door, and Retro Legends vote on the future content. All right, let's keep going. 1984. Adventure International and Marvel Comics team up and ask, what if we took the most punch-first, think-never superhero in comic book history and made him a text adventure? Here they are, side by side, and look at both screens. On the left, the C64. You get illustrated screens, Bruce Banner tied to a chair, actually comic book style artwork. You can see the Hulk. On the right, the Atari, blue screen, white words, no pictures, just Bruce Banner's situation described to you in sentences. Now, here's where it gets interesting. The Atari version wasn't text-only because the hardware couldn't handle the graphics. It was text-only because this particular release was crammed into 16 kilobytes to fit on a cassette tape. They cut the graphics to make it fit. The full graphic version of the Atari release actually exists, and some people say it looks better than the C64. But the version most Atari owners got? Text-only. So imagine going to your buddy's house. He's got the Atari. He loads up Hulk, and it's just words. You came from the C64 version. You've seen Bruce Banner on the screen. You knew from somewhere that you had to type bite lip to make him angry enough to transform. Your buddy on the Atari? He's doing the same thing. Same command, same game, just staring at a blue screen the whole time. Wait. Your version has pictures? What do you mean pictures? That conversation happened in living rooms across America in 1984. And that is what this comparison is really about. Not gameplay, not controls. Just the moment you realize the same game could feel completely different depending on which computer was under your TV. C64 wins this one on presentation. One side looks like a comic book. The other side looks like a term paper. Same Hulk, very different experience. Did you play Hulk on either system? Type bite lip in the comments if you remember this one. Next up on the letter Q tour, and this one's a little different. 1984, Sunrise Software puts you in the boots of Yucatan Sam, and yes, that's his actual name, and sends you on a quest to explore an ancient Mayan temple, find a hidden vault, and bring back the treasure inside. You're basically Indiana Jones if Indiana Jones had a joystick and sticky controls. Here they are side by side, and right away, these two look almost identical. Same pyramid, same temple entrance, same basic layout. Sunrise released this on everything in 1984. Atari 2600, Atari 5200, Atari 8-bit, ColecoVision, and the C64. Same engine across the board. Here's how it works. You start outside the pyramid. You cannot run up the center. I tried. You hit the diagonal angles on the sides, push the joystick into the corner, and hope for the best. Controls are sticky on both versions, not great on either one. Early levels, the climb is manageable, but as the game progresses, lightning starts shooting down those sides, knocks you straight back to the bottom. Snake bites you and starts a poison countdown timer. It's a survival crawl just to get through the front door. And once you get inside, you got limited air, explore fast, snakes, spiders, and mummies guard the temple rooms. If you got poison on the way up, there's a plant inside that cures you. Those little objects that look like pouches and bells, those are keys. Hidden in secret rooms you crack open with your pickaxe or a flask of acid. You also carry a Geiger counter. The higher the reader, the closer you are to something hidden, which is genuinely clever mechanic for 1984 that the game never bothers to explain to you. The Lemon 64 community agrees. One reviewer put it plainly, there's a lot more to this game than a few initial tries will reveal. That tracks. Here's something wild. Sunrise was running a real-world contest called the Quintana Roo Treasure Chest. The codes you unlocked inside the game were actual geographic coordinates pointing to a buried chest somewhere in the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico in 1984. They buried treasure and hid the location inside a video game. I don't know if anyone ever found it, but that's the most committed Easter egg in this entire series. Now look at Yucatan Sam on both screens. On the right, the Atari, blue hair, blue flame. The Atari has a full color palette, and somehow Sam ended up looking like he belonged in hair metal band rather than a Mayan temple. And on the left, the C64, brown hair, red flame, imagine that. More detailed, looks like an actual explorer. Character movement is smoother, ducking is available on both systems. I still have no idea what you're ducking from on early levels, but I assume that becomes painfully obvious later on. Score on both versions? 0. The whole time. Yucatan Sam, 0 points. If anyone knows how scoring actually works in this game, please drop it in the comments because I need help. C64 wins. Better character detail, better colors, smoother movement. The Atari version looks like it was designed on Monday morning by someone who had never seen brown. Both versions share the same sticky controls and the same wonderful sense of confusion. But at least on the left, Sam looks like he belongs in a Mayan temple. Has anyone actually found the vault? Or better yet, did anyone ever find the buried treasure in Mexico? Yucatan Sam's needs answers. Boom. 5 games, 5 C64 wins. Letter Q's a sweep. Boom. Series score. Heading into letter R, C64 52, Atari 28. The gap's real, and Atari faithful are not going to like where this is headed. If you missed letter P, link is on the end screen. A mummy pulls out a gun in ancient Egypt. Worth it. Shorts are dropping every day on Facebook and YouTube. Links in the description. Letter R is coming when it's ready. Real hardware takes time. Remember, link is below. Drop your favorite Q game in the comments. I'm Tom from Texas. This is Floppy Deep Dive. Real hardware, real memories. Boom. If you happen to go to Vintage Computer Festival Southwest, I'm going to be there. please, when you see me, come on up and say hello. I always love to talk to the viewers of Floppy Deep Dive. Until next time, boom.